Daniel was only 30 years old, but people already called him a self-made millionaire. His story was often told in newspapers, business magazines, and online videos. Reporters wrote about how he grew up in a small town, how he worked day and night, and how his dream finally turned into reality. People admired him because he was not just rich, he was also kind. He donated to charities, built schools in poor areas, and helped families in need. From the outside, Daniel's life looked like a fairy tale. He had a big modern house on the hills, with tall glass windows that showed the wide city lights at night. Expensive cars filled his garage, and servants took care of every little thing. When he walked into restaurants, people stopped and whispered, "That's Daniel, the young millionaire." Everywhere he went, respect followed him. But Daniel himself often said, "Money is not the real happiness. It is love that makes life perfect." And for him, that love had a name, Sophia. Sophia was more than just beautiful. She had long dark hair, gentle eyes, and a smile that could calm Daniel after his hardest day. She was soft-spoken, humble, and different from many women he had met in high society. Daniel always believed he was lucky to find her. She did not care about his money, she cared about him. When she laughed at his silly jokes, when she held his hand while walking through crowded places, Daniel felt like the richest man alive. Friends often told him, "Daniel, you have everything. Success, wealth, and now the perfect woman. What else could a man ask for?" Daniel would smile and reply, "Nothing more. I already have my world." But not everything was as simple as it looked. The first shadows. Sometimes, when Sophia thought no one was watching, her smile faded. Her eyes carried a kind of sadness, like someone hiding a heavy secret. She avoided talking much about her past. If Daniel asked, she would answer quickly and then change the topic. Once, while they were having dinner in the garden, she said softly, almost in a whisper, "Daniel, do you ever feel like the past can follow you, no matter how far you run?" Daniel laughed lightly. "The past? No, Sophia. The past is gone. Only the future matters now." But her eyes didn't laugh with him. She looked down at her hands, twisting her ring nervously, and said nothing more. At that time, Daniel thought she was only nervous about their upcoming wedding. He believed that every bride feels a little fear before marriage. He never imagined that Sophia's silence was more than just nerves. The proposal. Daniel remembered clearly the day he had proposed. It was on a boat in the middle of the lake, with candles and soft music playing. He went down on one knee and opened the small velvet box. "Sophia," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "will you marry me?" Her eyes filled with tears. She said yes, and in that moment, Daniel thought his life was complete. But even then, when he slipped the ring onto her finger, Sophia had whispered something he didn't understand, "I hope you never regret this." He kissed her hand, smiling. "Why would I regret the best decision of my life?" She smiled back, but inside her eyes, there was something Daniel missed, a flash of fear. Living the dream. As the weeks passed, their relationship became the talk of the city. Newspapers printed their pictures, calling them the golden couple. Sophia was praised for her beauty and elegance, Daniel for his charm and success. Invitations to parties and charity events filled their mailbox. But while Daniel enjoyed the attention, Sophia always looked uncomfortable in crowds. She stayed close to him, as if she feared losing him in a sea of strangers. When cameras flashed, she forced a smile, but her grip on Daniel's hand always tightened, almost painfully. One evening, after a charity event, Daniel noticed she was unusually quiet in the car. "Sophia, what's wrong? Did someone say something to you?" he asked. She shook her head quickly. "No, nothing. I don't like too much attention." Daniel laughed. "You'll get used to it. Soon everyone will know you as Mrs. Daniel." Her lips curved in a smile, but her eyes looked outside the window, hiding a storm inside. The whisper of warning. Sophia tried to warn him several times. She left small hints, gentle words that Daniel never took seriously. One night, while they were walking in the garden under the stars, she suddenly stopped and looked into his eyes. Her voice was firm, almost desperate.
Daniel, promise me something.
If one day something strange happens, promise me you will trust me, not anyone else. Daniel frowned, surprised by her serious tone.
Sophia, what are you talking about? Strange? Like what?
She looked down, shaking her head.
Forget it. Maybe I'm just being silly.
He laughed, kissed her forehead, and said, You worry too much.
Nothing bad will happen. You're safe with me.
But in her heart, Sophia knew danger was not far away.
The foreshadowing.
There were other small signs too. Once, Daniel found Sophia awake in the middle of the night, sitting by the window, staring at the city lights.
When he asked what she was doing, she said quietly, Sometimes I feel like someone is watching me.
Daniel hugged her and whispered, You're imagining things.
This house is safe. Nobody can hurt you here.
She rested her head on his shoulder, but she didn't argue. Deep inside, she knew it was not just imagination.
The beginning of doubt.
To Daniel, everything still seemed perfect. His business was growing, his wedding plans were moving forward, and he had the love of his life beside him.
But tiny cracks had already started to appear.
He noticed that Sophia never spoke about her family. She avoided questions about where she grew up, or what friends she had in the past. If anyone asked, she would give short answers like, It's complicated, or I don't want to talk about it. Daniel thought it was strange, but he respected her privacy. He believed love was about trust, not pressure. But one evening, as they were having dinner, Sophia suddenly looked at him with teary eyes and said, Daniel, there's something you don't know about me.
Daniel smiled, thinking she was joking. Of course, there's a lot I don't know. We have a lifetime to share everything.
Sophia opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again.
She shook her head. Not now. Another time. Daniel didn't push her.
He believed she would tell him when she was ready. But that night, as he lay in bed, he remembered her words and felt a strange unease.
The silent storm. From the outside, Daniel and Sophia's life looked perfect, like a dream others could only envy.
But beneath the dream, shadows were moving. Sophia's silence, her hidden fear, her strange warnings, all were pieces of a truth Daniel had yet to discover. And one day soon, that truth would break his perfect world apart. Daniel's days were busy with meetings, calls, and the endless demands of his growing business. Yet no matter how hectic life became, he always made time for Sophia. He believed she was his safe place, his peace after the noise of the world. But even in those quiet moments with her, something kept bothering him, though he could not explain what it was. Sophia had started to change in small ways.
At first, Daniel thought it was stress.
She became more watchful, her eyes scanning the streets whenever they went out together. She no longer liked going to large parties, even though invitations kept arriving every week.
Whenever Daniel suggested they should attend, she would smile politely and say she wasn't feeling well.
At home, she preferred staying close to him, as if distance made her uneasy.
One afternoon, they walked through the city park.
Children played around them, couples laughed on benches, and the air smelled of roasted chestnuts from a nearby vendor.
It was a perfect day. But Sophia wasn't looking at the sunshine or the children.
She was glancing over her shoulder again and again, as if expecting someone to appear.
Daniel finally stopped and asked, Sophia, why do you always look behind you? What are you afraid of?
She shook her head quickly.
It's nothing. Just habit. Habit? Daniel raised his eyebrows. That doesn't sound like a normal habit.
She forced a smile and pulled his hand.
Please, let's just keep walking.
He didn't argue further, but the question stayed in his mind.
Why was she afraid? That night, while Daniel was reviewing some contracts in his study, Sophia entered quietly. She stood by the door for a moment, watching him. He looked up and smiled, but her face was pale. She came closer, sat across from him, and said softly, Daniel, do you trust me? He was surprised by the sudden question. Of course, I do. Why are you asking that? Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. Because one day, I might ask you to believe me when things don't make sense. You might hear things about me, or about us. And if that happens, I need you to trust me, not them." Daniel laughed nervously, putting down his pen. "Sophia, you're scaring me. What are you talking about?"
Her lips trembled as if she wanted to explain, but in the end, she only shook her head.
"Promise me, Daniel. Just promise."
He leaned forward, holding her hands.
"All right. I promise. But you have to stop worrying like this. Nothing bad is going to happen. We're safe." She nodded but didn't look convinced. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep well.
Her words kept echoing in his head, "Trust me, not them." Days passed, and the warnings continued, though in different forms. Sometimes, Sophia would ask questions that sounded strange.
"Daniel, if everything you built was in danger, what would you choose? Your empire or the people you love?" He would laugh and answer, "That's easy. Love is always more important."
She would smile faintly, but her eyes carried sorrow. It was as if she already knew a test was coming. One evening, Daniel found Sophia in the living room, holding an old photo in her hand.
He had never seen it before. It showed a much younger Sophia with people he didn't recognize.
When she noticed him watching, she quickly slipped the picture back into her bag.
"Who was that?" Daniel asked gently.
"No one," she answered too quickly.
"Just an old memory."
Daniel didn't push, but uneasiness grew inside him. Later that week, they attended a formal dinner with some of Daniel's business partners. The room was full of laughter, glasses clinking, and music playing softly in the background. Daniel was busy in conversation when he noticed Sophia sitting quietly, her face pale again. Her eyes were fixed on a man across the room. The man was staring back at her. When Daniel turned to look, the stranger immediately looked away.
But Sophia's reaction was unmistakable.
Her hand shook so badly she almost dropped her glass. Daniel rushed to her side.
"Sophia, what's wrong?"
She whispered, "We need to leave.
Now." Daniel was shocked but respected her urgency.
He excused himself from the table and led her outside.
In the car, he asked again, "Who was that man?
Why did he scare you?" Her eyes filled with tears.
"I can't tell you yet. Please, just trust me."
He sighed, frustrated but still gentle.
"Sophia, you're making me worry more by keeping secrets."
She leaned against his shoulder, whispering, "One day, you'll understand." After that night, Daniel started noticing more strange things. Sometimes Sophia would answer unknown phone calls in a whisper and then delete the number. Other times, she would walk out to the balcony alone and return looking shaken. Daniel asked, but she always gave the same reply, "It's nothing."
But it wasn't nothing. One late evening, while Daniel was asleep, Sophia sat beside him, watching his face in the dim light.
She reached out to touch his cheek but stopped halfway. Tears rolled down her face as she whispered, "I wish I could protect you from my past.
I wish you never had to know."
She thought he was sleeping, but Daniel's eyes opened slowly. "Protect me from what?" he asked in a tired voice. Sophia froze, then forced a weak smile.
"Nothing, Daniel. Go back to sleep."
He wanted to press her for answers, but something in her fragile expression stopped him. He pulled her close, and she lay down silently, staring at the ceiling until morning.
The next day, Daniel tried to convince himself he was overthinking. Maybe Sophia just had old memories she didn't like to discuss. Maybe it was nothing serious.
But deep down, a small voice in his mind whispered that life was not as perfect as it appeared.
Sophia's warnings continued, sometimes in words, sometimes in her fearful silence.
And though Daniel loved her deeply, part of him had begun to feel uneasy. He could sense a storm was coming, but he didn't know when or how it would break into their lives. For now, he chose to ignore the signs. He believed love would be enough to protect them. But in Sophia's heart, she knew the truth. She knew the past was already moving closer, and soon, it would reach their door. Daniel was beginning to notice how Sophia's mood shifted quickly these days. Sometimes she was the happiest woman alive, smiling and laughing with him, but other times, her face looked pale, her eyes restless, as if she was listening to voices only she could hear. He tried to ignore it, telling himself love was enough, but in his heart, questions had begun to grow. Why was she always afraid? What was she hiding? The answers started to reveal themselves on a cold evening when Daniel hosted a party at one of the city's most luxurious hotels. It was a celebration for his new business deal, something that would take his empire to an even higher level. The ballroom sparkled with golden lights, music played in the background, and people filled the hall with laughter, handshakes, and clinking glasses. Daniel stood tall, smiling proudly as everyone congratulated him. And beside him, Sophia stood like a shining star in her elegant dress. At first, everything looked perfect. Guests admired the couple, saying they looked like a picture from a fairy tale. But then, something happened that would change the entire night. Daniel was speaking to a group of investors when he noticed a man in the distance. The man was not talking to anyone, not drinking, not laughing. He stood near the corner, his sharp eyes fixed directly on Daniel. His suit was plain, unlike the others, but his presence was heavy, almost threatening. Daniel tried to ignore it, but every time he glanced back, the stranger's eyes were still on him. Finally, when Daniel turned again, the man was no longer standing in the corner. He was walking slowly across the room, straight toward him. Sophia noticed first. Her face turned white, and her grip on Daniel's arm became tight, almost painful. "Daniel," she whispered urgently, "let's go. Please, let's leave right now." Daniel frowned. "What? Why? We can't just walk out in the middle of this." Before Sophia could reply, the man reached them. He stood tall, his face calm but cold. Without greeting or introduction, he looked Daniel in the eye and said in a low voice, "You don't know who she really is." Daniel froze. The room was still full of laughter and music, but for him, everything went silent. "Excuse me," he asked, his voice sharp. The man smirked slightly, then slipped an envelope into Daniel's hand. "When you're ready to see the truth, open this." Without another word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd like smoke. Daniel stood frozen, the envelope heavy in his hand. He wanted to call the man back, demand answers, but when he looked around, the stranger was gone. It was as if he had never been there at all. Sophia's eyes were wide with fear. She whispered, "Daniel, don't open it. Please. Just throw it away." He stared at her, shocked. "You know him? Who was that?" Her lips trembled, but she shook her head. "I don't know. I swear, I don't. But please, don't look inside. Just forget it." Her words only made him more suspicious. He slipped the envelope into his jacket pocket and forced a smile for the guests, but inside, his heart raced. The party went on, but Daniel's mind was elsewhere. He couldn't focus on the speeches or the laughter. Every time he touched the envelope in his pocket, he felt as though it was burning. Who was that man? Why had he spoken those words? And why was Sophia so desperate for him not to open it? When the night finally ended and they returned home, Daniel excused himself, saying he was going to his study. Sophia followed him to the door, her voice soft, pleading. "Daniel, don't. Please. Sometimes the truth only hurts. Let's not ruin what we have." He looked at her, torn between trust and curiosity. "Sophia, I love you. But love also means honesty. If there's something I need to know, I have to face it." She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "Not this. Not now." But Daniel could not stop himself. When she finally left the room, he sat down, took a deep breath, and opened the envelope. Inside were several photographs. His hands trembled as he looked at them one by one. They showed Sophia, younger but clearly recognizable, standing with people he had never seen before. These people did not look ordinary. Their faces were hard, their eyes cold, their bodies marked with tattoos that suggested danger. In one photo, Sophia was sitting beside a man with a cruel smile, his arm around her shoulders. In another, she was standing with a group of men near black cars, their expressions serious, their clothes too sharp and dark to belong to normal friends.
Daniel felt his stomach twist. Was this real? Could the woman he loved, the woman who was supposed to be his perfect partner, have been connected to such people? He dropped the photos onto the table, his breath heavy. His mind screamed with questions, but his heart fought against them. This was Sophia, his Sophia. The gentle woman who laughed with him, who held his hand, who whispered that she loved him. How could these pictures be true? Sophia entered quietly, her face pale when she saw the photos spread out before him. She didn't try to deny them. She just stood there, her body shaking. Daniel looked at her with hurt in his eyes. Sophia, what is this? Who are these people? Who are you? Tears ran down her cheeks as she whispered, I wanted to tell you. I tried so many times. But I was afraid. I thought maybe the past would never find me here. Daniel's heart pounded. So, it's true? You were with them? She nodded slowly, her voice breaking. Before I met you, my life was different. I wasn't free. I was trapped with people I couldn't escape from. But when I found you, I thought I could start again. I thought I could bury that past forever. Daniel closed his eyes, torn between anger and love. The woman he trusted most had kept a secret that could destroy everything. The perfect life he believed in suddenly felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. Sophia stepped closer, her voice trembling. Daniel, I need you to believe me. I left that life behind. But now they know about you. And that means you're not safe anymore. His chest tightened. He had never been a man who feared much, but in that moment, fear crawled into his heart, not for himself, but for her. The night ended with silence between them. The photos lay scattered on the table, Sophia sat crying softly, and Daniel stared into the darkness, wondering if the stranger was right. Daniel could not sleep that night. The photos on his desk haunted him, and every time he closed his eyes, the stranger's words echoed again and again, you don't know who she really is. He turned on the bed, staring at the ceiling, while beside him Sophia lay still, her face turned away, silent tears falling onto the pillow. When morning came, Daniel was still restless. He walked into the kitchen, trying to distract himself with coffee, but Sophia followed him quietly. She stood at the door, her hair falling loose around her face, her eyes red from crying. Daniel, she whispered, please, let me explain. He turned to her, his voice heavy. Explain? That's all I want, Sophia. Just tell me the truth. No more half words, no more secrets. Who are those people? What are you running from? Sophia's lips trembled, but she nodded. For the first time, she seemed ready to let down the walls she had built. She pulled out a chair at the table and sat down, her hands shaking. Daniel sat across from her, his heart pounding, waiting for the answers that could change everything. My name is Sophia, she began softly, but that is not the name I was born with. I changed it when I escaped. I had to. Because the family I was part of, they don't forgive. They don't forget. Daniel frowned, confused. Family? You mean your relatives? Sophia shook her head slowly. Not the kind of family you think. It was a crime family. Dangerous, powerful, controlling. My father worked for them, and because of him, I was pulled into that world. They controlled everything, where I went, who I met, what I did. I was never free. They watched me like a prisoner. Daniel's chest tightened. The gentle woman he loved, the one who seemed so innocent, had once lived in the shadow of criminals. She continued, her voice breaking. When I was younger, they used me. I had to smile, I had to sit beside men in photographs, I had to make it look like I belonged. But inside, I hated it. I wanted a normal life. I wanted freedom. One day, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. So I ran. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes full of questions. And they just let you go? Sophia shook her head violently. No. No one leaves them. They chased me. I changed my name, I moved to new cities, I lived quietly, always hiding. I thought I could start again. And then I met you.
Her voice softened, and her eyes filled with tears.
You were everything I never thought I would have. Kind, gentle, full of dreams. You looked at me not like I was broken, but like I was someone worth loving. For the first time, I felt safe. Daniel's heart ached as he listened. He reached across the table, holding her trembling hands. Sophia, why didn't you tell me? I would have understood.
She shook her head quickly.
No. You wouldn't. If you knew, you might have walked away. And I couldn't bear to lose you. I wanted to keep this life with you, even if it was built on silence. Daniel looked at her with pain in his eyes. But now, they've found you, haven't they? She nodded slowly. Yes. That man at the party, he wasn't just a stranger. He works for them.
He came to warn you, to poison you against me, to make you doubt me.
It's how they work. They break trust. They want you to leave me, so I'll have nowhere to hide. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. So they know about me. About us.
Her voice dropped to a whisper.
Yes. And now you're in danger too. Silence filled the room.
Daniel felt anger, fear, and love all twisting inside him. He wanted to scream at her for hiding the truth, but at the same time, he wanted to protect her from everything.
Sophia looked into his eyes, desperate.
Daniel, if you want to leave me, I won't stop you.
I don't want your life to be destroyed because of me. Maybe it's better if I go away before they hurt you.
Daniel stood suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor.
No. Don't you dare say that. You're not going anywhere.
She looked up at him, her tears shining in the morning light.
But Daniel. He cut her off.
I don't care who they are. I don't care about your past.
I only care about you. You're mine, Sophia. And I'll protect you, no matter what it takes.
Sophia shook her head sadly.
You don't know what you're saying. They have power, Daniel. Money, connections, weapons. You're strong, but you don't understand their reach. If they want to destroy someone, they can. And I don't want to see them destroy you. Daniel's jaw tightened. Let them try.
I didn't build my life to live in fear.
And I'm not losing you because of some shadows from the past.
Sophia buried her face in her hands, torn between hope and despair. She had always dreamed of someone who would stand beside her, but she also knew the price of defying the family. People who tried to escape usually disappeared. Forever. The day stretched on with heavy silence between them. Daniel tried to focus on his work, but the photos kept pulling him back. He stared at them, imagining the faces, wondering which of those people would come for them. Every sound outside the window made him turn his head sharply. For the first time in his life, he felt hunted. At night, Sophia sat on the balcony, looking at the stars. Daniel joined her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. She leaned into him, her voice soft. I don't know how long we have before they make their next move.
But whatever happens, I need you to remember one thing. I love you, Daniel. More than I've ever loved anyone.
He kissed her forehead, whispering, and I love you.
That's enough.
But deep down, he wondered if love would truly be enough against the storm that was coming.
The truth had been spoken. The perfect life he once believed in was gone. Now, they stood together on the edge of a dangerous path, and neither of them knew where it would lead.
Daniel had always believed that money and power made him untouchable. He built walls of security around his empire, hired the best lawyers, trusted the strongest partners. But now, for the first time in his life, he felt those walls cracking. The truth Sophia had confessed left him shaken. He looked at her and saw the same gentle woman he loved, but in his mind, there were shadows, dangerous faces from those photographs, the stranger's warning, the fear in her eyes.
Days passed slowly, heavy with tension. Sophia barely left the house.
She kept the curtains closed, checked the locks twice, and jumped at every sound outside. Daniel tried to comfort her, but he was fighting his own battle inside. Love told him to believe her, to protect her, but doubt whispered cruelly in his ear, "What if she is still hiding something? What if she has dragged you into a trap?" That whisper grew louder one night when the phone rang. Daniel answered, and a deep voice spoke calmly on the other end. "Daniel," the man said, "you don't know me, but I know you. And I know her. The woman beside you is not who you think. Leave her, or you'll lose everything." Daniel's chest tightened. "Who is this?" he demanded. The voice chuckled coldly. "Think of me as a friend. A friend who's warning you before it's too late. Walk away from her. Save yourself." Then the line went dead. Daniel stood there, gripping the phone, his heart racing. He wanted to tell himself it was a prank, but deep down, he knew it wasn't. Someone was watching. Someone was already inside his world. When Sophia came into the room, she saw his pale face. "What happened?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel hesitated. He wanted to protect her from the call, but he also wanted the truth. "Someone just called," he said finally. "They told me to leave you. They said I'll lose everything if I don't." Her face drained of color. She sat down slowly, whispering, "It's them. They've started." Daniel clenched his fists. "Let them threaten all they want. I'm not leaving you." But Sophia shook her head desperately. "You don't understand. They never just threaten. When they say something, they mean it. If you don't walk away, they'll destroy your business, your name, your life. And when they're done with you, they'll come for me." Daniel knelt in front of her, holding her hands tightly. "Sophia, listen to me. I don't care what they try to do. I've fought for everything I own. I won't let them take you away." Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "Then they will take everything else." The days that followed proved her words right. Strange things began to happen. A deal Daniel had worked on for months suddenly collapsed without reason. A trusted business partner pulled out at the last minute, refusing to explain why. Rumors spread in the market, rumors that Daniel was laundering money, that he was secretly tied to criminals. Investors started questioning him. For the first time in years, his empire was shaking. Daniel knew these were not coincidences. It was the family. They were pulling strings, attacking from the shadows, trying to break him down piece by piece. Sophia saw the damage and blamed herself. One evening, Daniel came home to find her with a suitcase packed. She looked at him with red eyes and said, "I can't stay. I'm destroying your life. If I leave, maybe they'll stop." Daniel's heart broke. He grabbed the suitcase and threw it aside. "No. You don't get to run from me. We face this together." She cried, clutching his chest. "You don't understand. They will never stop. They will destroy you because of me. And I can't watch that happen." But Daniel was firm. "I'd rather lose everything than lose you." Still, the cracks were spreading. The calls continued, each one colder than the last. "Walk away," the voice repeated. "She is a curse. Choose her, and you will fall." At night, Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind torn apart. He loved Sophia with all his heart, but doubt gnawed at him. Could it be true? Was she truly free of them, or was she still tied to their world in ways she hadn't admitted? Every lost deal, every whisper in the market, every shadow in the corner made him question. One night, Sophia found him sitting alone in his office, staring at the photographs again. He looked tired, broken. She placed her hand on his shoulder and whispered, "Daniel, please, trust me." He looked up at her, his eyes full of pain. "I want to. God knows I want to. But every day, I feel like I'm losing everything I built. And I don't know how much more I can take." Her tears fell freely. She sank to her knees beside him and said, "Then let me go. If you let me go, you'll be free. They'll stop.
You'll be safe again.
Daniel pulled her into his arms, his voice shaking.
Don't say that. I don't care about safety. I care about you.
But even as he held her, the weight of betrayal pressed on his chest. Not betrayal from her love, but from her silence, from the world she had dragged him into without warning. His heart told him she was innocent, but his mind whispered that he had stepped into a trap he might never escape.
The family's shadow grew darker each day, and Daniel could feel them closing in.
Sophia had warned him from the beginning, begged him to trust her, but now, as everything around him crumbled, he wondered if love alone would be enough to survive what was coming.
The storm was no longer far away.
It was already here, and Daniel knew the next move would decide everything: his future, his empire, and the woman he loved more than life itself. The mansion was quiet that evening, but Daniel could feel the silence was not peace. It was heavy, like the air before a storm. He sat in his office with the curtains drawn, the city lights glowing faintly through the glass. Papers were scattered across his desk: contracts broken, deals ruined, rumors printed in the news.
His empire, once strong and admired, was now shaking like glass ready to break. And at the center of it all was Sophia.
She sat on the couch, her hands folded in her lap, her face pale. She hadn't slept in days, and the sadness in her eyes was deep. Daniel watched her, torn between love and anger, between hope and despair. He wanted to believe they could still have a future, but the shadow of the family was closing in. That night, when the phone rang again, he knew it would be them. He picked up without a word, his jaw tight. The same cold voice spoke slowly.
"This is your last chance, Daniel.
Leave her, and you will keep your world. Stay with her, and you will lose everything." Daniel's voice was steady, though his heart pounded.
"I'm not leaving her."
The man chuckled softly.
"Then prepare yourself. We are already inside your house." The line went dead. Daniel froze.
He rushed into the living room where Sophia was sitting. Her eyes widened when she saw his face.
"What is it?" she whispered.
"They're here," he said.
Her lips trembled. "Daniel, listen to me. You can still walk away. You can tell them you don't want me. Save yourself."
He grabbed her hands tightly.
"No. Don't you understand?
I made my choice the day I met you.
I will never let them take you away."
She broke down crying, holding on to him.
"I don't want you hurt because of me."
Daniel lifted her chin, looking deep into her eyes.
"Whatever happens, we face it together."
A sudden knock echoed through the mansion, loud and sharp. Both of them froze.
Another knock followed, heavier, more demanding. Daniel felt Sophia's grip on his hand tighten. He whispered, "Stay behind me."
Then he walked slowly to the door. When he opened it, several men were standing there. Their faces were hard, their suits dark, their eyes cold. The same kind of men from the photographs.
Behind them, black cars waited silently on the driveway. One man stepped forward.
He was tall, with sharp features and a cruel smile. "Daniel," he said calmly, "you are a smart man. But smart men know when to let go.
Give us the girl, and we walk away. Refuse, and we take everything."
Daniel's heart pounded, but he stood firm.
"She's not going anywhere." The man's smile faded. "Then you choose destruction."
He turned his gaze to Sophia, who was standing just behind Daniel, her face pale, her body trembling.
"You should have known, Sophia. No one leaves the family. You belong to us."
Sophia shook her head, her voice breaking.
"I don't belong to you anymore. I belong to him."
She pointed to Daniel, her tears shining in the dim light.
The man's eyes narrowed. He looked back at Daniel.
"Then you will regret this for the rest of your short life."
The tension in the room was thick.
Daniel's fists clenched at his sides, his body ready though his mind screamed with fear. He had faced business rivals, courtroom battles, and financial storms, but never men like these. Still, he stood tall, refusing to bend. "Leave my house," he said firmly.
"If you touch her, you'll have to go through me."
For a long moment, the men stared at him. Then, slowly, the leader smirked.
Very well. You've made your choice. He turned, signaling to his men.
They stepped back, walking toward the waiting cars. The leader paused at the door and added, "This is only the beginning. Watch your empire burn, piece by piece, until you have nothing left." The door closed, and silence filled the mansion once again. Daniel's chest was heavy, but his grip on Sophia's hand was strong. She was crying softly, her body shaking.
"Daniel," she whispered, "what have you done? Now they'll come for you, for everything."
He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers.
"I don't care about the empire. I don't care about the money. All I care about is you."
She clung to him, sobbing. For the first time in years, she felt like she was not running alone anymore. For the first time, someone had chosen her over everything else. That night, they sat together in the living room, not sleeping, just holding on to each other as the hours passed. Outside, the city lights flickered, and somewhere in the distance, black cars disappeared into the night. The war had begun, and they both knew it. But in that moment, Daniel whispered softly into her ear, "Whatever comes, we face it together. Always." And though fear still lived in their hearts, love gave them strength to take the first step into the storm.